This is climate finance, the money that isn't. Today on the Climate Change Dictionary, we are talking about climate finance. As the term suggests, climate finance means the money required to deal with the ongoing global climate crisis. Steps taken to deal with climate crisis are called climate action. It largely includes adaptation and mitigation. So all the money needed for climate action is called climate finance. Add to this one more thing, addressing loss and damages. Basically, money to make up for what has been lost and damaged by the climate crisis. Who is financing whom, you ask? More than what is climate finance, where it comes from is where the entire politics lie. Let's start the story of this politics from the beginning. In the days of yonder, once upon a time, actually not that long ago, everything started officially in Rio de Janeiro at what is called the Earth Summit. June 1992, when the UNFCCC or the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was drafted, this term came up for the first time. In 2009, it was decided that $100 billion will be paid every year till 2020 by the developed world to the developing countries. And at COP21 in Paris, under the Paris Agreement, it was decided that this will be extended till 2025 and revised after that. What the Paris Agreement is what we explain in our previous video, so make sure you hit pause, go back and watch that first. Basically, as a part of the Paris Agreement, 196 countries signed a pact where developed countries made three big promises to developing countries. First, assistance in building technology. Second, capacity building. And third, and very important, financial assistance. It was agreed upon that developed countries like the UK and US will lend financial assistance to developing countries like India and South Africa to intensify their actions towards dealing with the climate crisis. Because if they don't act, the entire globe will have to suffer from the ramifications. And now, if you're wondering why can't we pay for our own climate action, the answer is we don't have the money. And there is a global understanding that most developing countries were not really the harbingers of this crisis. Developed nations are called historical polluters because they did more than their fair share of polluting the earth during and until much after the Industrial Revolution and ensured that they become the developed economies that they are today. While developing countries have mostly been on the receiving end of the impacts of catastrophic climate events without having contributed much to them and without being developed or prepared enough to deal with them. In the UNFCCC, this fact was reiterated. So once it was decided that the developed countries will be doing this, it should have been fairly simple after that, but it kinda wasn't. For starters, this money that we're talking about is huge. I mean, we are talking about millions, billions, trillions of dollars. To give a ballpark figure, we're looking at nearly $6 trillion for all developing countries by 2030. The developed world has been shaky on its promises, and without this money, developing countries are not willing to act. For instance, let's talk about our home sweet home. At COP26 in Glasgow, our Prime Minister Modi announced ambitious climate targets for India, like a sudden, unexpected net zero target for 2070 among 5 other big ones, saying that if we all have to raise our climate action goals, we will also need to raise the limits for climate finance. He asked for $1 trillion for India.
भारत की अपेक्षा है कि विकसित देश जल्द से जल्द $1 trillion का क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस उपलब्ध कराएं.
Now, experts in the country and elsewhere thought that India has announced these targets, which are most likely to be our NDCs or nationally determined contributions towards the Paris Agreement, till we realized that they're not. India said that we will only adopt these goals as our NDCs if we are given these $1 trillion, otherwise we won't. Several funds like GCF or the Green Climate Fund have been set up over the years. Committees like SCF or Standing Committee on Finance has been established to monitor this mechanism. But things keep shaking up. For instance, America has been pretty against this concept time and again. In 2015, while the Paris Agreement was being agreed upon by 196 countries, America had said they want an out. Their envoy, John Kerry, said, "Take the developed world out of this. Remember, the earth has a problem. What will you do with the problem on your own?" After much back and forth, America is part of the agreement now. But like any old father in a Bollywood movie, the developed world does not want to do away with their jaidat. And if $100 billion every year until 2025, as decided under the Paris Agreement, is already a problem, then raising this amount further is of course a problem, and tensions are reaching a crescendo as we inch closer to 2025. For now, the money being offered is grossly insufficient and is shrouded in mystery. The developed world keeps saying that their financial support has been going up, except everyone else feels that they're just playing accounting tricks to fool us. And when we say they, we mean a US-led party. They do this through commissioning reports to assess their progress, and in their own reports, they declare that they're delivering on all promises of climate finance, basically cooking the books. Often, a large part of this assistance is offered as a loan, or a loan with a 10% interest will be given at 9% and 1% will be called climate finance, and so on and so forth. And of course, that is a problem. I mean, come on. If we mutually decide that you owe me some money, and later when you don't really pay up and I ask you for it, you either obfuscate or say, hey, here, you need some money? Here's some. Pay me back later. That will piss me off. And the US is pretty darn good at pissing everyone off. At COP26 in Glasgow, everyone had high hopes that strong stands will be taken and defaulters will be pulled up and some headway will be made into getting more solid clarity on climate finance, definitions and deadlines. But none of that happened. The US, like a diva, did a nice sweet hair flick and walked off. But for now, this entire climate finance business leaves countries like ours on a back foot in a world where carbon is almost a commodity. And lack of clarity on the politics of climate change makes for unfair and unequal grounds that breed terms like carbon colonialism. This is what we will discuss in our next video, so keep watching.